Inflexibility of the voting power. Quotas are normally reviewed for every 5 years and can be increased when deemed necessary by the power of board of the governors. IMF voting shares are relatively inflexible. Countries that grow economically have tended to become underrepresenting as their voting power lags behind. Currently, reforming the representation of the developing countries within the IMF has been suggested. These countries' economies represented a large portion of the global economic system, but this is not reflected in the IMF's decision-making process through the nature of the quota system. Joseph Stiglitz argues there is a need to be provide for more effective voice and representation for the developing countries, which now represent a much larger portion of the world economic activity. Since 1944, when the IMF was created in 2008, a number of the quotas reforms were passed, including shifting 6% of the quota share to the dynamic emerging market and developing countries. Our coming borrower creator divided in the IMF membership is divided along income lines, and certain countries provide the financial resources while the other use these resources. Both developed countries creditors and the developing countries borrowers are members of the IMF. The developed countries provide the financial resources but rarely enter into IMF loan agreement. They are the creditor. Conversely, the developing countries use the lending services but contributed little to the pool of the money available to lend because their quotas are smaller. There are the borrower. Thus, tension is created around the governor's issues because these two groups, creditors and the borrowers, have fundamentally different interests. The criticism is that the system of the voting power distribution through the quota system institutionalizes borrowers subordination and creditor dominance. The resulting division of the IMF membership into borrowers and non-borrowers has increased the controversy around the conditionality because the borrowers are interested in the increasing loan access while creditors want to maintain reassurance that the loans will be repaid. Uses a recent source revealed that the available overall use of the IMF credit per decade increased in a real term by the 21% between the 1970s and 1980s, increased again by the just over 22% from the 1980s to the 1991 to 2015 period. Another study has suggested that since 1915, the continent of the Africa alone has received 300 billions from the IMF. The World Bank had affiliated institutions. A study by the Bombay Mukherjee found that developing democratic countries benefit more from IMF program than developing autocratic countries because policy making and the process of the deciding where loan money is used is more transparent within the democracy. One study done by the Randall Stone Fund that although earlier studies found little impact of the IMF program on balance of the payments, more recent studies using more sophisticated method and larger samples usually fund IMF program improve the balance of the payments. Exceptional Access Framework. Sovereign Debt. The Exceptional Access Framework was created in the 2003 when John B. Taylor was under the Secretary of the U.S. Treasury for International Affairs. The new framework became fully operational in February 2003 and it was applied in the subsequent decision on the Argentina and Brazil. Its purpose was to place some sensible rules and limited on the ways of the IMF makes loans. They support government with the debt problem, especially in the emerging market, and thereby move away from the bailout mentality of the 1990s. Such as reform was essential for ending the crisis atmosphere that then exists in the emerging market. The reform was closely related to the two and put in place nearly simultaneously with the action of the several emerging market continues to place selectively the action clause in their bond contract. In 2010, the framework was abandoned, so the IMF could make loans to Greece in the unsustainable political situation. The topic of the sovereign debt reconstruction was taken by the IMF staff in April 2013 for the first time since 2005. In the report entails sovereign debt in restructuring, recent development, and the implication for the fund's legal and policy framework. The paper, which was discussed by the board on 20 May, summarized the recent experiences in the Greece, as Kitts and the Nevis, Belize, and the Jamaica. An explanatory interview with the Deputy Director Heg Bredenkamp was published a few days later as was a deconstruction by Martina Steves of the Wall Street Journal. The staff was then directed to the formulate and update policy, which was accomplished on 22 May 2014, which with our support entails the funds and lending framework and sovereign debt primarily consideration and taken up to the executive board on 13 June. The staff proposed that the circumstances were where a member has lost market access and debt is considered sustainable, the IMF would be able to provide exceptional access on the basis of the debt operation that involves an extension of the maturities and which was labeled on a reprofiling operation. These reprofiling operation would generally be less costly to the debitor and creditor and thus to the system overall relative to either an upfront debt reduction operation or a bailout that is followed by the debt reduction would be envisaged only when both a member has lost market access and debt is assessed to the sustainable but not with the high probabilities. Creditors will only agree if they understand that such an amendment is necessary to avoid a worse outcome, namely a default or an operation involving debt reduction. Collective reduction clauses, which now exist in most but not all bonds, would be relied upon to address collective action problems.